Well, good morning, good morning. What's happening? Happy Tuesday. And so, I wanted to share with you guys some thoughts in terms of how I see this process of achieving a goal, of losing weight, transforming your body. So I don't necessarily think you, in terms of, your goal, like, well, my goal is not 20 pounds. Just think of the 20 as just an outcome-based goal, okay? And habits are like skills. It takes time to develop them. Think of the actions or the processes as like the habits, and it ultimately takes time and effort and skill development to be able to really get good at achieving your goal of wanting to transform your body. So again, it just takes time. Okay, so check it out. How to achieve your goal. Let's say it's 20 pounds. What is the goal that you want to achieve? First, you kind of have to set the goal and intention of saying, like, this is the outcome I'm trying to achieve. Cool. We all can set a goal. But a lot of times, like, it just stops there. And so what I really want you to do is to think beyond the goal, and we're going to go a little bit deeper, okay? What are the skills required to attain that goal, okay? What are the skills required to attain that goal? And then we're going to go into that. What are the daily practices that will help build those skills, okay? So we're going to go into the skills required to attain the goal and the daily practices in terms of building those particular skills, okay? So it's kind of like two layers deep. So imagine you're coaching your kid on how to throw a ball. You wouldn't expect them to be perfect at first. It's your kid. Let's say he's like 5, 6, 7 years old. It takes time to develop the skills and technique. You have to practice certain elements of the throw. You yourself will learn how to coach and what to say, and your kid is learning how to throw a ball. And just again, it just takes time, it takes repetition, it takes practice, and you might have to practice cocking the ball back. You might have to practice how to throw, what your arm does, what your torso does, if you step, whatever the technical part of it is, it's going to take time to develop that. And again, might take daily, might take weekly, until you're really, really good at coaching your kid how to throw, and your kid becomes really good how to throw, okay? So first part, hunger and appetite awareness. So a lot of times when people are first kind of starting this journey, they tend to ignore their hunger, and they say, I don't really eat breakfast, Brandon. I'm like, okay. Do you eat lunch consistently? I'm like, yeah, I do. I eat lunch consistently. I'm like, every day? I'm like, yeah, every day. Okay, how did yesterday go? Well, yesterday was different. I had, you see that? So what tends to happen is we kind of conflate our sense of self, but then when we bring ourselves down to reality, we realize, like, well, you know what? I actually eat lunch sometimes, and I don't eat lunch sometimes. It just depends. Whereas your hunger and awareness is ultimately going to dictate how often you should eat. And if you're hungry, you should eat. But if you're like ignoring that, that's something to kind of raise your awareness. And guess what? It is a skill to be able to listen to what your body's telling you. And it's kind of crazy to think about it like that, right? On top of that, eat slowly. What does this mean? Eat slowly. Take your time. No distractions. And not in a rush. So here's a couple different ways to think about it. Who has ever told you, like, you need to eat a little slower? Don't just slam your food in. And also, if you don't eat with distractions, you're also being more aware with yourself and your food and how it tastes, and you're more present. It's pretty cool. Number 2, eat until you're satisfied, not until you're stuffed. Okay, so think of it like this. Your nerve innervates your stomach. They say it takes 20 minutes till you feel full. And so if you eat really quickly before that delay, you can eat past how much you could simply based on speed. And so eat slower, and the amount is more like okay. So a lot of times people will equate stuff to satisfied. So if you can simply break the connection between how much will leave you satisfied and how much will leave you stuffed, that's kind of the first part to raising your awareness and hunger and appetite. Okay? Whoa. Okay, eat whole and fresh food consistently. Now we're going to be going into a little bit of choices and frequency. So what is it you need to practice? Eating a lean source of protein with every single meal. So if you're used to eating cereal for breakfast, cereal is simply like carbs and sugar. And so it's fast, it's quick, it's simple, it doesn't take a lot of preparation. I get that. The only other side for me is like, where's the source of protein? It could be a protein shake, great. It could be a few eggs and egg whites, great. As long as you're eating a source of protein, it's going to help. The other side is like, we are kind of aiming for a certain amount of protein per day. And so just as a rule of thumb, if every time you ate, you had a source of protein, it would hit that minimum that we're requiring or we're aiming for, okay? Number 2, plenty of veggies, plenty of produce. So if you could have plenty of vegetables in your day, that would help a lot. And so if you're unaccustomed to that, you can start slow, but really try to aim for as much veggies as you can. And so 5 produce a day, put that into practice. That's going to help a lot. Minimize carbs and fat. So what are carbs and what are fats? The specifics of that, I would say, are for another video, but think of it like this. What is it that do I need to practice on the daily to develop the skills to lose the weight? And so I kind of think about minimizing carbs and fat as like portion control. Portion control to me means you're simply being mindful of how much you're eating of these particular foods. So I'll give you an example. Minimize carbs and fat consistently. Carbs and fat. So what is a carb? What is a fat? You could think of potatoes and oil. But if you deep fry your potatoes and oil, that's French fries. And so can you have like a serving of French fries every single day? You could, but then again, you'd have to minimize other food in order to make room for that. So to me, having fried stuff isn't the smartest choice if you're trying to get leaner, because they tend to be high in calories and hard to resist. So for now, I'd probably table them. Make smart carb choices. So what I put there is complex carbs and starchy carbs. Complex carbs tend to keep you fuller longer, whereas starchy carbs are digested faster, so you'll be hungry a lot quicker. So cereal, for example, is like a starchy carb, depending on the cereal, but most cereals are small chain sugars. They get digested really quickly, and it's going to leave you hungry like that. Complex carbs you can think of as sweet potato, quinoa, oatmeal, something that has a little bit more fiber, and it is going to keep you fuller longer, okay? Eat healthy fats. I put organic butter, avocado, olive oil, coconut oil. You tend to see, healthy fats more as like plant-based fats. I like that just because you do need fat in your diet, and if you have it as more of a plant-based, it's typically separated from your meals. So definitely look into those. Those are great options. And last but not least, and to be honest with you, this could be probably the more challenging thing because a lot of people are very unaccustomed to thinking forward and being proactive with their meals. Okay, so number 1, plan meals in advance. So what I'm looking for you guys to do in the comment sections below is tell me what you're going to be having, breakfast, lunch, and dinner from Tuesday to Friday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So what is that? 3 times 4 is 12. 12 meals across 4 days, so 3 meals. If you're like, I have a couple snacks, perfect. Throw that in there. I want to know. Post it below. Okay? So what are you going to have the beginning of your day? What are you going to have middle of your day? What are you going to have for dinner? And then record what you eat. Journal. What is it going to do? It's going to raise awareness. It's going to keep you accountable. And ultimately, you're going to be able to reflect on what you did and if it was able to serve your goal. Okay? And number 3, this isn't necessarily something to practice, but this is ultimately going to be able to help you reflect on the gap between the goal you want to achieve and the actions associated with the goal and what you actually did. Meaning, if you did these certain things, this goal is going to happen. But if you didn't do these certain things, you're going to be able to reflect, look back, and make adjustments to your plan and calibrate your course moving forward. So I'll give you an example. You're like, shoot, I skipped breakfast yesterday. I'm like, okay, well, what can you do to make sure that it happens the following day? And you're like, oh, man, I got really busy at work. I didn't eat lunch. You're like, okay, well, let's assume that tomorrow is, you can kind of assume that you might be busy. So what are you going to do to make an adjustment to make sure that that happens moving forward? So you plan, and then what you actually get done is kind of a difference. And so the gap to me is the gap between you and your goal. And the closer that gap is, meaning what you plan is closer to what you actually do, the more likely you are going to be putting in the actions that's going to lead to the results that you want and the outcome you're trying to create. Okay? Cool. So to kind of review, hunger and appetite awareness, a lot of times people ignore their hunger, so make sure that you're like listening to your body. The other side is like satisfied versus stuffed. Satisfied versus stuffed. Okay? Eat whole and fresh food consistently. Lean protein in every meal. That's going to help a lot. And then tons of veggies in your day. Minimize carbs and fat consistently. So carbs and fat, I know it tastes delicious. It's fast. It's easy. It's quick. It doesn't require a lot of preparation. That's one of the reasons why minimizing it is so important. And systematically plan your healthy meals. This to me is probably the bigger thing, because I get it. Life happens minute by minute, moment by moment, day by day. But ultimately, to me, outcomes and goals don't happen by accident. They don't happen by living reactively, and like as your day hits you, you kind of respond. And so I want to leave you with this quote so that you can take this with you. If you sacrifice what you want, if what you want, sacrifice for what you want, otherwise what you want will become the sacrifice. So you guys have a wonderful day. Hope you took something away from this. If you have any questions or any more information that you would like me to share in the comments below. I love doing these things. I want to make this a more normal thing. Okay? All right, you guys. I'll see you later.